Now let's go to the US and speak to Courtney Kealy in Washington, D.C. Courtney, the reaction from the US, well, especially Donald Trump. At the moment, we've only seen that flag on his Twitter feed, but talk to us about the other reaction we've seen coming out of the US.
It was really interesting when we were looking to see who was going to take responsibility for the killing of Soleimani. President Trump had not tweeted for 12 hours, which is rare for him to stay that quiet. And then only this image of an American flag was tweeted, and that is the only thing that still remains hours later. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo did tweet a video of a handful of people carrying an Iraqi flag down the streets of Baghdad, saying that they were dancing in the streets in Baghdad. But do know that was about 20 to 30 people. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton has hailed this assassination as a good thing. He has been hawkish on Iran as a known policy for years. The dissent is coming from the Democrats, especially, including the presidential candidates like Joe Biden, who when he was vice president, was part of the Iran nuclear deal that was signed between Iran and the U.S. and other countries, something that Donald Trump has suspended and backed out of. And what Biden had to say was, this is throwing dynamite on a tinderbox. A lot of other Democrats are echoing that statement. They are also saying that this was done without congressional approval. You'll be seeing a lot of huddling at Congress today, people coming back early from recess, most likely. And a lot of people are questioning why now and why Soleimani, because it is such an escalation in terms of Iran and the U.S.
And indeed, and we're looking at pictures of protests, mourning in Qasim in Iran at the moment. Why now, Courtney, and why? We know Donald Trump has had his policy of maximum pressure on Iran, but why?
It's very unclear. Donald Trump, you have to remember, has lost a lot of his cabinet staff, what he used to call the generals, including General Mattis, who resigned over his unilateral declaration of withdrawal from Syria in 2018. He also had H.R. McMaster. All of those minds from the military are gone. He has Mark Esper, who put out a comment last night saying it was because American lives were at risk. One could argue, and many Democrats and other people, especially people like the head of the Council on Foreign Relations here, is saying this is merely an escalation. This assassination is completely incendiary. We all know here that Soleimani was part of all the foreign policy and in charge of Iranian militias and Iranian soldiers in places like Syria and Hezbollah in Lebanon and in Iraq, that he had free and unfettered access in Iraq and Syria. He was often on Twitter. I remember when at first he used to be a very shadowy figure in the early part of my career. By the time the Syrian crisis was deepening, he was quite public and almost quite showy. And to go out, to take out a figure like this, only people in Iran, young people, are saying we are all Qasim Soleimani. You can't divide this deeper. The U.S. is now ordering all U.S. citizens to get out of Iraq, saying don't come near the embassy, consular services are suspended, get to an airport, and if you can't get to an airport, get to a land border, without even mentioning one land border is Iraq and Iran, Saudi Arabia, a small border in Jordan, and Syria. So this isn't an easy evacuation for any American citizens that are doing business in Baghdad, which there are quite a number of in recent years. It also fragments the relationship between the U.S. and a very fragile Iraqi government. And there really is no understanding of why Donald Trump would make such a move right now, except that it could really lead to not only more chaos, but an escalation and a lot of bloodshed.
Courtney, thank you so much for the update. Courtney Kealy live for us there in Washington.